huh? Feels good to be here. It feels really good to be here, actually. I have been talking about, over these last 4 weeks, 5 weeks today, about the pathways to God, as written about by Swami Vivekananda in the book Pathways to Joy. And Swami Vivekananda was at the, I'll remind you, was at the World Parliament of Religions in Chicago in 1893. 1893, he was talking about the Hindu way of being in these yoga pathways to that World Parliament. And he was a hit. I'm telling you, if you read anything about it, he was a huge hit there. And for you Unitics, I mentioned that Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, co-founders of Unity, were in the audience, and they heard him speak. And by all accounts, he, like I said, he was the most engaging speaker there. And this book has some of the lectures that he gave at that parliament are included in here. He talked about these Hindu paths, and I'll remind you that these yoga pathways are intended to match the nature of the person, because the nature of the people are different. The nature of us is different. And so the religion, he said, should match that, should feed all different people no matter what path they're on. There shouldn't be just one way of doing something. And on these pathways, he advised to listen to what they were about, to think about it, to meditate on it maybe, and then to choose the one that was appropriate for you and to live that every day. And that's how you live, become a yogi, to become a yogi. I started off talking about Karma Yoga, and I projected on you because here we are in the United States of America, and most of us are very busy and energetic. We work, we take care of families, and there is a great energy to accomplish and do things. And most of us, if we were to follow a yoga pathway, we would probably, most of us, be on the Karma Yoga pathway. And we learn to check in every action, in every thought, in every word, to check our motive, to see it. Are we acting, are we speaking, and are we thinking unselfishly? That is the path of Karma Yoga. And we work not to get money, not to get fame, not for retirement, but we work because we know that when we work, good will come of it. That is the Karma Yoga pathway. The second week I talked about Bhakti, or Bhakti Yoga pathway. A Bhakta is one who is in love with the universe, who is driven by ritual and flowers, and who is very emotional. So emotional that they can barely function in our chaotic karma world. They would see that world as very chaotic. And that yoga, a Bhakta yoga person would be always about worshiping God in everything. And I mentioned that if you read the poet Hafiz, you might see the familiarity maybe of someone on the Bhakta Yoga pathway. He was in love. His poetry is all about being drunken in love over the friend and the beloved. That's the Bhakta Yoga pathway. Last week I talked about Raja Yoga. Now Raja Yoga pathway was very rigorous, you'll recall if you were here. It is a pathway where there is a prescriptive way of going about being on this pathway. There are 7 steps or 8 steps, I forget. What is it? Oh, do you remember what it was? 8. There were 8 steps, thank you, on the way to that pathway. And the first 3 are simply to renounce everything in the physical, to get beyond everything in the physical so that the mind can evaluate itself. So in order to know God, for the mind to go inside. And I shared with you at first, I thought, oh, this is probably mine. And I thought, no, that sounds way too hard. It doesn't sound like something that I could do, even though I'm interested in that. But in each case, I pointed out that there were aspects of each of those pathways that we could incorporate into our own Karma Yoga pathway, if that's what we were on. And it's no different than the pathway that I want to talk about today, which is the Jnana pathway. And I know you're not going to like this. I'm going to step right close here, out of the picture, and get my glasses. Renee is If you've listened to these services, by the way, I'll speak to you who are listening to it on Facebook or on YouTube. We've been having trouble with the sound, we've been having trouble with the picture, and some people are letting us know that, and I appreciate that. Thank you very much. So today we are trying out a new camera. You'll notice I'm mic'd up here, so hopefully the sound quality will improve. Thanks for sticking with us on that. This fourth pathway is called Jnana Yoga. And here's what Vivekananda says about the Jnana Yoga pathway. The Jnana Yogi is the philosopher, the thinker, he who wants to go beyond the visible. He is not satisfied with the little things of the world. His idea is to go beyond the daily routine of eating and drinking and so on. Not even the teaching of thousands of books will satisfy him. Not even all the sciences or the innumerable systems of worlds will satisfy him. They are to him but a drop in the ocean of existence. His soul, the Jnana Yogi soul, wants to go beyond all that into the very heart of being, and by becoming one with the universe and itself. Wow. Really what this means to me is the Jnana Yogi wants to get beyond everything we can see in the outer, all of what is visible, all the stuff that changes all the time, and get to what is unchanged. Get to the root of the existence. The Jnana Yogi asks this question, who am I? Not what is my body or how is my mind, but who am I at the core? And to do that, the Jnana Yogi has to release all attachment to everything in the outer. All of it. What it's called in yoga terms is liberation from Maya. Liberation from all of the physical, all the things that us karma yogis really are attached to. Our families and our work, each other, all that stuff, the Jnana Yogi wants to release. All is Maya. And there's a story, there's a legend that really is illustrative of this idea of Maya. So Krishna had a young student with him called Narada. And Narada said, you know, what is Maya? Show me Maya. He wanted to know what that meant. And after a few days, Krishna says to Narada, well, let's go for a walk in the woods. So Narada and Krishna go for a walk in the woods, and after a few miles, Krishna says, you know, I'm thirsty. Can you go get me some water? And Narada says, sure, I'll go get you some water. So he starts to walk from the woods. He sees a village in the distance, and he goes to that village. He knocks on the first door, and to the door comes this most beautiful young woman. Well, he's pretty gaga over that woman. And he goes into the home, and he starts talking to this woman. And the short story is they fall in love. They fall in love, they get married, they have children. The father-in-law dies, he bequeaths his whole land and all his riches to his daughter and son-in-law. They have a farm. They're living the life, man. They are happy. He's got 3 kids and a beautiful wife. He is happy as he can be. Until one night, when the river that ran through their property overflowed its banks. And he finds himself in the middle of the night, water up to his waist, gathering his children and his wife to him, and trying to walk out of the home. He's got one child on his shoulders, 2 others hanging onto one hand, and his wife in the other, trying to walk through this fast-moving water. And as try as he might, he slips, and the child on his shoulders falls into the water and is swept away. Oh, he wails, as you might imagine. He wails at that. Not soon after that, the 2 children on his one hand also get swept away in the water. He is beside himself. He is hysterical, as you might imagine. And as hysterical as he is how tightly he is holding on to his wife, who also slips from his grasp, and he himself is thrown up onto the bank of the river. Distraught beyond distraught. And here's what happens. Behind him, there comes a gentle voice. My child, where is the water? You went to fetch a pitcher of water, and I have been waiting for you. You have been gone for quite half an hour. Half an hour, Narada claimed. 12 whole years had passed through his mind, and all these scenes had happened in half an hour? That is Maya. And in one form or another, we are all in it. We are all in this dream world. We all think that this is reality, and to the Jnana Yoga, it is not. This may happen in 15 minutes. It may happen in the blink of an eye. The Jnana Yogi wants to know for sure by releasing the attachment to Maya. Well, that almost seems, or not almost, it seems crazy to us karma yogis. Because who could convince us that this is not real? Who could convince us that this is happening in 15 minutes? That might be really tough. I, for one, am not on the Jnana Yoga pathway. Not there yet. Maybe in another lifetime. Who knows? But that's not my pathway. But as in the other yoga pathways, what I'm saying is there's some wisdom here for us that we can use in our own path. There's some wisdom that we can use that comes out of the Jnana Yoga pathway in our own life. Well, last week I shared a mantra from my friend Maggie, who is going through recuperating from knee surgery. And she mentioned last week, you know, the physical stuff is very seductive. Have you noticed that about physical stuff? No matter what it is, if it's physical body stuff, if it's physical relationship stuff, the stuff in the physical is really seductive, isn't it? It sucks us right in. It puts us right in that place of, this is real. Let me tell you what Vivekananda says about it. He says this about how we deal with what comes to us. He said, one moment we are whipped. And when we begin to weep, nature gives us $1. And then we're happy for a time. You know that's true. Then again, we are whipped, and when we weep, nature gives us a piece of gingerbread, and we begin to laugh again. When we are young and healthy, we think that all the wealth of the world will be ours, and when we get older, after we get kicked about like footballs, we sit in a corner and croak and throw cold water on the enthusiasm of others. Few people know that with pleasure, there always comes pain. It is derogatory to the glory of humanity that a person should go after pain, and equally derogatory that we should only go after pleasure. Both should be turned aside by people whose reason is balanced. Pleasure plays upon us, pain plays upon us. Why will not men and women seek freedom from being played upon? That's what happens to us. Pain plays upon us, pleasure plays upon us, and we let it. We let it happen that way. You know, this brought to mind this idea of, you know, when we teach children all the time, this idea that life isn't fair, don't we? When we have children, we say, you know, it's not always going to work out the best for you. There are going to be times when things aren't going to go your way. We teach them that. We want them to know that. We teach them to share their toys, to share what they have, because we teach them to see the inequality in the world and to act accordingly. We teach them that. We want them to know that not all the things are the same all the time. We teach them that sometimes you win and sometimes you lose. And we teach them to lose gracefully, hopefully. We call that sportsmanship, right? We teach them that it's okay to lose. What happens to this teaching when we become adults? Why do not we act this way ourselves? We were taught the same things more than likely. We're now teaching it to the youngsters. And yet when things are tough for us, we don't like it at all. We don't say to ourselves, don't worry, it'll get better. It's going to be all right. We don't see inequality and share what we have easily, as we teach young kids to do. And when we lose, we don't like it. We like to win. It feels better to win. But we need to be able to go from one place to the other. We need to not be able to, not all the time get whipped up about the pain part. Just like we need to not be so attached to the pleasure part. Enjoy the pleasure. Enjoy the joy. Enjoy it. Be there in every moment. And know that it won't last. In fact, I have a mantra for you for this whole way of thinking. And that is simply this. No matter what is happening in your life right now, this too shall pass. It could be really great. It could be not so great. It could be perfect. Know that this too shall pass. This too shall pass. That's the great teaching, I think, from the Jnana Yoga pathway. Here's another one. Here's another one for us to think about. We are so much more than our busyness. We are so much more than our busyness. In fact, when I heard Dr. Michael Rice on Friday, he said, you know, busyness is an addiction. And that was a square look in the mirror day for me. Because anybody who's talked to me and says, how are you doing? Oh, I'm so busy. I'm addicted to busyness. Maybe you are too. But we are so much more than busyness. We are so much more than being busy. We think that's what life's about. In fact, some of us wear busyness as a badge of honor. I am so busy. I am so important in my busyness. Don't we? Think about it. Be honest. Yeah, I'm really busy. You know you feel that way sometimes. Like the busyness is a good thing. It's an honorable thing. But not so much. It's not who we are at all. And Jnana Yoga pathway teaches this. Let me give you another story about who we really are or what we really are. And you may have heard this story before, but it bears repeating. Upon the same tree there are two birds, one on the top and the other below. The one on the top is calm, silent, and majestic, immersed in his own glory. The other one on the lower branches, eating sweet and bitter fruits by turn, hopping from branch to branch, is becoming happy and miserable by turns. After a time, the lower bird eats an exceptionally bitter fruit, and feeling miserable, he looks up and sees the other bird, that wondrous one of golden plumage who neither eats sweet nor bitter fruit, who is neither happy nor miserable, but calm and centered in the spirit. The lower bird longs for this condition, but soon forgets it, and again begins to eat fruits. In a little while, he eats another exceptionally bitter fruit, which makes him once again feel miserable. And he again looks up, and he tries to get nearer to the upper bird. Once more he forgets. Do you see the pattern? And after a time he looks up, and it goes on, again and again, until he comes very near to the beautiful bird and sees the reflection of light from its plumage playing around his own body. He feels a change, and as he comes nearer, he seems to melt away, and everything about him melts away until at last he understands this wonderful change. The lower bird was, as it were, only the shadow, the reflection of the higher. He himself was in essence the upper bird all the time. When he has come near enough, he realizes that he is no other than God himself. That's the way it is for us. We don't realize it. We're pecking the fruits, we're eating the sweet ones and the bitter ones, we're moaning, we're in joy. We don't realize the divinity that we are. The great teaching in Jnana Yoga pathway, and in yoga, all pathways, is to recognize that we are already divine. That we don't have to be seduced by the bitter fruits, or even by the sweet fruits. We are more than that. And so the second mantra that I have for you is simply this: I am more than this. I am more than this. Think about what a challenge you're dealing with right now. Think about that. What is the challenge in your life right now? What is it? Everybody has one, usually a couple, right? Think about what that is. What if you believed that mantra, that I am more than this? I am more than that. I am. If you just paused for a minute and really believed that you were more than that, doesn't it make you feel just a little bit different? Like it could be possible that some other experience for you was possible in that. I am more than this. To come full circle around, really, the last point I'd like to make is one that I shared with you probably on the first day when I was talking about the Vedanta philosophy. And that simply is this, that on any pathway, whether it's the Bhakti pathway, the Jnana pathway, the Raja pathway, the Karma pathway, the practice, the simple practice of seeing God everywhere can change you at depth. To begin to see God in faces and places where God does not exist for any other reasonable person. To look in the eye of what others might call evil or awful or horrendous, and to see God, to train yourself and to practice seeing God there does an amazing thing. Because you have put that energy into a place that no other reasonable person might be able to see. You actually are calling forth that to happen right there in the midst of it. That by putting your attention on it, you are calling forth God itself in that. In Syria, in Parkland, Florida, in your own life, in that challenge. If you can begin to see God there, you allow God to operate there. Through no effort of your own other than to acknowledge that God is there. That there is a power and a presence there that is healing, that is soothing, that is strengthening, and that is loving. Right there is the greatest thing that we could ever see in any place where a reasonable person could not see God at all. And so the third and final mantra for today, God is all there is. God is all there is. To remind ourselves that that's the truth, that there's one source in all the universe, that all life proceeds from the one creator, whatever name is that you call it, all proceeds from there. So this too shall pass. I am more than this, and God is all there is. So let's take those ideas into meditation this afternoon. I encourage you to take a deep breath and to relax into this moment. To breathe in and breathe out. And to simply remind yourself, use these mantras. This too shall pass. I am more than this. And God is all there is. Breathing in and breathing out. This too shall pass. I am more than this. God is all there is. Expressing from your soul. Be attuned with your soul in every way. The wisdom of your soul is the light you need, and all is well. So I invite you to begin to stir into this time and place with a renewed understanding of the truth of your soul. And so together we say amen together.